Mr. President, a few years ago, I met a young woman who lives in the Chicago suburbs. She told me a story of her college career and what it led to. It was something I'd never heard before. Her experience in trying to pursue a degree leading to law enforcement took her not to the normal, predictable academic sources, but to a new industry which was opening up in our country, for-profit colleges and universities. Hers was a sad story. She had been enrolled in one of these for-profit colleges and paid the tuition, took the courses, some of them in person, some of them online, and ultimately went to a counselor and asked if she was headed for a bachelor's degree because of her coursework, and he assured her that she was. She went on to say that she hoped to be able to get into law enforcement. That was her ultimate goal. He gave her assurances that that would happen. She finished her degree at this for-profit college and university in Chicago, and then took her certificate showing her graduation to would-be employers, police departments in the area. They laughed at her, and they said, "That's not a real school. That's a for-profit school, and the courses you took don't count. If you want a degree in law enforcement that leads to a real job, you can't get it from a for-profit college and university." Well, that was a heartbreak to her because she'd spent years working on it. But what was even worse was she was so deeply in debt for student loans that she borrowed from this phony university. She, when I met her, was living in her parents' basement, had no future ahead of her for doing what she thought was the right thing, getting a college degree. What she didn't know and what we know now is that there are two numbers that tell the story of for-profit colleges and universities. You hear their names, like the University of Phoenix. That's probably the most prominent one people hear over and over. And you see their advertisements and brochures that are mailed to high school seniors, enticing them to sign up for these for-profit schools. What you don't know is that although only 8% of high school graduates go to for-profit colleges and universities, 8%, 30% of all student loan defaults are the students from these same schools. What's going on here? Such a low number, 8% going on to these schools, and such a high number of loan defaults. That's because they issue worthless degrees and entice these students into deep debt. Many times a parent or even a grandparent will co-sign on the loans for these for-profit schools. And when everything falls apart, as it's likely to, everybody's held liable and responsible. That's why we've had an ongoing battle here in Washington for years against the for-profit college and university industry. There was a legal battle in a case called Sweet versus McMahon, which has gone on for years. It finally, this week, came to an end. And it's an important case on the subject of for-profit colleges and universities. It was the largest class action settlement against the federal government in the history of our nation. That's life-changing news for nearly 500,000 federal student loan borrowers who will receive $23 billion in relief after being misled and defrauded by for-profit colleges. If you listen to the radio on your morning commute or watch TV after a long day's work, then you have no doubt been hit with flashy advertising from institutions like the University of Phoenix looking to lure in unsuspecting students. Here's the catch. These institutions often rip off those students, lying about their prospects for a job, their ability to have credits to transfer to any other school, or their likely salary after graduation. In fact, these schools, as I mentioned, enroll only 8% of the students, but account for 30% of all federal student loan defaults. Too much debt, too little education. NPR recently highlighted the story of Jessica Feint of Michigan. She enrolled at the University of Phoenix to study psychology. She said she, quote, paid a lot out of pocket and through student loans. She realized later that the school's recruitment counselor had repeatedly misled her including by telling her that a degree would be accepted by Michigan graduate programs. That was false. By the time she learned her degree was useless, she was already underwater and deeply in debt. So she joined this class action lawsuit, originally filed during President Trump's first term, to get relief. 4 years later, it took 4 years, she'll finally see the relief which she was entitled to. The first Trump administration, go figure, denied nearly all of these claims by the students, which a federal court described as, quote, disturbingly Kafkaesque. But in 2022, President Joe Biden and his administration settled the case and forgave the student loans and debts of nearly 300,000 borrowers who had been defrauded. Under the terms of that settlement, borrowers who were not part of the original class had 5 months to file claims. If the Department of Education had not adjudicated the additional claims by early 2026, borrowers still waiting in limbo would be automatically entitled to relief. But while the Trump administration can quickly greenlight permanent tax breaks for the wealthiest Americans, as in their so-called big beautiful bill, they hesitated when it came to giving relief to these students who just wanted a fair shot. In late 2025, the Trump administration asked for an additional 18 months to review the students' claims, students who were defrauded by these schools. A federal district judge said, enough. Last month, a panel of 3 judges from the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit unanimously upheld this decision. Good. Like their tactics with DACA recipients and the slow walking of renewal applications with the USCIS, the administration was asking for more time so that they could bleed out these borrowers and deny relief to hundreds of thousands of students deep in debt, living in their parents' basement, trying to figure out if they had a future. This is where the priorities lie. I am glad these borrowers, after years and years of waiting, will finally get the relief they are entitled to. Mr. President, for the last 15 years or more, I've sent a letter to every high school counselor in the state of Illinois. I sent it about the first of the year and warned them, be careful not to let your students be lured into these for-profit colleges and universities. They're going to send them brochures, they're going to team them up with all sorts of things on the internet. It'll be a dazzling display about a college which is not a real college. It's a for-profit college and university. Be careful. The time that you spend there, the money that you spend there may be a total waste or worse. It could be a debt that trails you for years and years, if not decades, in your life. Thank goodness for these students. There's thousands of students who were benefited by President Biden's decision. The courts finally stood by them and gave these students a second chance. It's been a situation I've run into time and again. I have threatened some of these for-profit schools as a way of getting them to drop the loans that they were enforcing on these students, because I know what happens in the end. Students need to be careful. You can't go wrong starting with city colleges and community colleges in your community. It's affordable. There are alternatives there. Most of the time, these hours that you earn there are going to be transferable to real colleges and universities. I beg my young students in Illinois to start there, and the student counselors to do their job and discourage kids from getting involved with these for-profit schools.